Real flowers are expensive, but artificial flowers are just as stunning for half the cost. We're skipping the long intro because wedding planning is already time consuming and you just need the steps on how to make these. Let's start with materials. You'll need 7 sets of baby's breath. Each of these sets comes with 5 stems, and this is what they look like. You'll need 9 roses, 2 hydrangea heads. This is what the petals looked like for reference. 1 styrofoam semicircle. I bought full ones and cut them in half. A piece of cardstock and a pen, scissors and garden shears, as well as a glue gun and glue sticks. Alright, let's prep the base. Since I cut a full styrofoam ball in half, the bottom portion is shedding these pieces of foam. So to fix this, lay your cardstock on a flat surface, place the semicircle on the cardstock, and trace around the circle using your pen. Next, cut out the circle and glue it to the styrofoam. I added glue around the first half of the circumference and the middle and added the cardstock to that section and then glued around the rest of the circumference and the middle to attach the rest. There's no right or wrong way to do this, you just have to glue the cardstock to the base. The cardstock might poke out on the edges like mine did, so if that happens to you, just use some scissors to trim the edge off. Ta-da! Now it's time to pull out the hydrangeas. Remove the petals off of the hydrangea head. The petals I used had these beads in the middle. If you have those as well, just remove them, throw them away. You really only need the petals. Start by gluing a petal to the top of the circle. Not perfectly centered because you're going to stick a rose in the center later, but pretty close. I add glue to the petal and then use the tip of my pen to spread out the hot glue that spills over. Now, you don't want to stick these too close together because you'll be sticking flowers in the middle on the leftover styrofoam. You want to conceal the foam. You'll end up having 2 rows of petals, as you can see on screen. The spots that you could see on the foam is because I tested this earlier before filming. Okay, let's prep the roses. Let's take a moment first, though, to appreciate how gorgeous these are. I found them on Etsy. They're super soft, very realistic looking. I use them for our bouquets too. They're a bit flat, though, once delivered, so you'll want to play around with the petals, open up the flower a little bit. Another issue is that the stem is a bit loose, so you'll need to add some hot glue around the base to make sure it's secure. Let them dry upside down after gluing just so that it doesn't spill all over. Now you'll need to trim the stem. Fold the stem in half and cut it at the fold using the garden shears. Once that's done, straighten the stem. Do this for all 9 roses. Once that's done, it's time to prep the baby's breath. It's really very simple. All you have to do is separate the stems into individual pieces. So open up your baby's breath packages and cut them. The ones I used had 3 obvious sections, so that's how I separated them. Be sure that you don't cut them too short because you do need some stem to be able to stick them in the foam later. When you finish, you should have a large pile of baby's breath ready to go. Alright, now for the exciting part, assembling the centerpiece. You'll start with the roses. First thing you're going to do is stick a rose in the foam at the very top, in the center. Then you're going to stick a second rose in between the first row of the hydrangea petals. That's the second row, you really want it in the first row right there. Once your first one is in, you'll place the second one on the opposite side. You'll notice that they're kind of in a straight line. Then you'll place another, still in that first row between the hydrangea petals, in the middle of the two other roses. And you'll do the same thing on the other side. The goal is for all the roses to be equally spaced apart. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just somewhat equally spaced apart. For the remaining 4 roses, you'll be placing them in the second row of the hydrangea petals and place them in the gaps between the roses of the first row so that, again, they're all evenly spread out. It's a little bit easier to just watch the video and see how I'm doing it visually. This is how it should look when you're finished. Next, add some hot glue around the base of each rose just to secure it in place. After this, all you have to do is fill the rest of the foam with baby's breath. There's no real method for how I did this, just filling the gaps with all of the pre-cut baby's breath. Pro tip here, if you want to save some additional costs, what you can do is use a smaller styrofoam base because you'll need less baby's breath to fill it, so you won't have to buy as many packages. And this is what you should be left with in the end. Easy peasy. I used the same method, by the way, to create a more rectangular shaped piece for the table of honor. It was just a regular styrofoam rectangle. This is what it looked like. If you're curious, you can kind of see how I positioned the roses, but it was really the same process. Thank you so much for watching. If you're curious about how I made my bridal and bridesmaids bouquets as well as our boutonnieres, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try to film a video of those steps.